All right, so you really want to unpack the how and the why of 2016. Well, buckle up, because we're going deep on this one. Trump's victory. It all started with those crazy Republican primaries.
Yeah.
We've got these excerpts, kind of an insider look from this book chapter that really breaks it all down. The tactics, the media just going nuts, and honestly, yeah, a whole lot of rule breaking going on.
It really was anything but conventional right from the get-go. Like, think about it. 17 candidates. You've got all these, like, seasoned politicians, the heavy hitters, all vying for that Republican nomination.
Yeah.
And then you got Trump just waltzing in. He basically tosses the playbook right out the window.
Yeah.
And replaces it with something that honestly looks a lot like a reality TV show.
It's June 16th, 2015. We're in Trump Tower. That golden escalator descent, rocking in the free world, blaring, paid actors in the crowd. I mean, this was political theater.
Oh, yeah.
At its finest.
Absolutely. It was a spectacle. That's what it was. Made to grab attention, dominate the news cycle, and boy, did it ever.
And then there's that line right from the announcement about Mexican immigrants. They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists. Oh, man, huge uproar. Companies cutting ties, pundits saying this is it, he's done. But get this, his poll numbers, they went up.
I don't get it. What explains that?
He was tapping into something that was already there. Anxieties, real anxieties about immigration, economic insecurity, and, well, it hit certain groups of voters especially hard.
Right.
And, the louder the backlash got, especially from those considered the, quote-unquote elite, the more just cemented that image he was building, the anti-establishment candidate, the guy who just, says what everyone else is thinking but too afraid to say.
So, like, he was rewarded for being, well, politically incorrect.
Pretty much, yeah. That whole tell it like it is thing became a huge part of his brand, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
And then we get to primary season with the nicknames.
Oh, yeah. Low energy Jeb.
Wow.
Little Marco. Lion Ted. It was like, I don't know, like he was branding them with these super simple labels, almost childish,
He was turning them into caricatures, wasn't he? And it worked.
Oh, it was effective on like so many levels. Think about it. They're easy to remember. Media is repeating them constantly. And well, there's this anti-intellectualism that it tapped into,
Right.
And it resonated with a lot of voters. It let him control the whole story, define his opponents before they could even introduce themselves.
And don't forget South Carolina, the debate. He mocks Jeb Bush right there on stage for bringing his mom to a campaign event.
Oh, yeah, I remember. Bush, he'd spent over $130 million. Initially, he was the front runner, no doubt. But Trump, well, he completely took him apart. And that kind of leads us to, well, another fascinating part of this whole campaign, this Teflon Don thing.
Yeah, how did all these controversies, things that should have sunk a normal campaign, just not stick? Mocking John McCain's war record, imitating a disabled reporter. I mean, the media went crazy every time.
Right. It's paradoxical. But, his supporters, they often saw these scandals as just more proof that he wasn't part of the establishment. He wasn't afraid to, challenge the norms.
Yeah.
And while all that media attention, even the bad stuff, it kept him front and center. And, it basically drowned out any of his opponents, like billions of dollars in free media.
And then you have the rallies. Completely different from those traditional town halls we were used to seeing.
Part rock concert, part revival meeting, just pure spectacle, guaranteed to get the media there. Other candidates struggling to fill a school gym and Trump's packing stadiums. Energy, excitement, it was crazy.
It felt like a movement, not just a campaign. Breaking all the rules, It was something else. By Super Tuesday, most folks figured it was over. The Never Trump movement tried to stop him, but too little, too late.
He had tapped into something big. That dissatisfaction, that yearning for change, a desire for someone who spoke their language.
Mm-hmm.
That's what got him the nomination.
But then the general election, completely different game. The DNC convention was, kind of chaotic, really highlighted the cracks in the Democratic Party. And then Trump's acceptance speech. I alone can fix it. Chilling.
Oh, absolutely. A pivotal moment. Solidified his appeal, that whole strongman leader image, the one who takes charge, shakes things up. But it also alienated a ton of people who saw that as authoritarian, alarming even. And then the general election campaign, oh boy, anything but T-general.
It was a race to the bottom. Crooked Hillary, basket of deplorables. It was nasty.
That was deliberate. All about emotion, not reason, demonizing the opponent, creating that us versus them mentality.
The debate's even less about policy, more like a reality TV showdown. Trump looming behind Clinton. No puppet, you're the puppet. It was wild.
Those visuals, the sound bites, they're what people remember, and they played out differently for different people, too. Like, a lot of voters, especially men, they saw Trump's aggression as strength, decisiveness, and Clinton came off as, well, weak or untrustworthy. And then October hits, the October surprises, starting with, well, the Access Hollywood tape. That tape, him bragging about assaulting women, should have been game over. Most analysts thought so.
A bombshell. And he doesn't really apologize. He just goes on the attack, blames everyone else, brings up Bill Clinton's past.
Classic Trump. Deflect, distract, and keep the base energized. And just when it looked like he might actually be slipping, we get the Comey letter, 11 days before the election. Clinton's emails.
Game changer. What was the impact? Remind us.
It brought back all those doubts about her trustworthiness, fed right into that whole narrative, dishonest, corrupt. And it really did have an impact, especially in those last few days.
And all this is happening is, well, we're in a digital war. We've never seen anything like this before.
Things get really interesting here. We got to talk about Russia, the hacking, WikiLeaks, social media being weaponized, and then fake news. This is a whole new kind of threat.
Let's break it down then. First up, Russia. What were they doing? How did it impact things?
Well, U.S. intelligence, they concluded Russia was really running this sophisticated campaign to influence the election. They hacked into the DNC, the Democratic National Committee, got into John Podesta's emails, Clinton's campaign chairman. Yep. And then they strategically released all that through WikiLeaks.
The timing of those releases, though, like the Podesta emails, right after the Access Hollywood tape, that can't be a coincidence.
Oh, no, not at all. It was calculated to distract, to manipulate the news, shift the whole narrative. And we saw how well it worked.
It wasn't just the hacking, though, right? I mean, they were on social media, too, spreading disinformation, just creating chaos.
Absolutely. They created these fake accounts, pages, posing as, regular Americans. And they used those to, spread divisive stuff, promote Trump, and, attack Clinton. This wasn't just some random trolls. This was organized, to undermine trust in the whole process.
That's kind of scary, the scale of it, like information warfare.
Exactly. And their content, millions of Americans saw it. And it really did shape how people saw things, made those political divides even worse.
And we got to talk about Cambridge Analytica. They worked for the Trump campaign, right? Data analytics firm. What were they doing in all this?
Cambridge Analytica, they were collecting data. Tons of it from Facebook, building these psychological profiles of voters, super detailed. This wasn't just like your basic demographics. They were analyzing personalities, values, fears even, and then using all that to make these hyper-targeted ads designed to trigger people's emotions.
You said 50,000 ad variations per day. That's crazy personalized.
Never been done before in a campaign. They could tailor messages to exploit anxieties, prejudices, feed people exactly what they already believed, whether it was true or not.
So instead of a platform, they were microdosing voters with these emotional triggers.
Pretty much. And it was super effective, especially in those swing states, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania.
And then there's the fake news. Those totally made-up stories, dressed up to look like real news, spreading everywhere on Facebook.
Oh, that was huge in 2016. And, it's still a problem. It's fueled by a bunch of things, those hyper-partisan websites, the decline of traditional media, and, how Facebook's designed. Their algorithms promote engagement, whether it's true or not.
So people are stuck in these echo chambers, just seeing what they already believe.
Exactly. It gets harder and harder to tell what's real, what's fake, especially if you're not, tech savvy. And that makes it so easy to manipulate people.
It makes you think how easy it is to manipulate us all, especially online.
It's a big issue, a societal issue. The 2016 election, it showed just how fragile our information is, And we need to get better at media literacy, thinking critically.
Okay, so we've got the digital stuff, the economic anxieties, that cultural backlash. It's a lot, but there's more, right? The system itself, that played a role.
Right. Trump, he was great at exploiting what was already there. But we have to acknowledge the sister itself, it was, kind of primed for someone like him.
What do you mean by that? How did the system itself help him win?
Well, look at the media, right? They love spectacle, controversy, more than, actual policy discussions. And that's Trump's bread and butter.
He sure knew how to get those headlines.
Exactly. And then campaign finance laws. They let so much money flow in, often from, who knows where.
So not exactly a level playing field.
Right. Those with money, they have way more influence. And then there's the Electoral College. You can win the presidency without winning the popular vote. We saw that in 2016.
Well, a lot of people think it's undemocratic.
It's definitely controversial. But all these things, the system, the anxieties, the social stuff, it created this perfect storm for Trump.
So it's not that he's a genius, it's that the system was vulnerable to, well, to his kind of populism.
That's a good way to put it. He didn't break the system. He showed us the cracks, the weaknesses that were already there. And we need to fix those if we want to protect our democracy.
That leads to the big question then. We've looked at the what, the how, but what does it mean for us? What are the big takeaways from 2016?
Well, I think one of the biggest is the old rules, they don't apply anymore. Trump showed us you can win on emotion, even if it means, ignoring the norms, spreading misinformation, exploiting those divisions we have.
He changed the game.
He did. And we have to be aware of that moving forward.
And what about the media? We talked about how he got tons of free coverage and, well, how their focus on the spectacle, the conflict, it helped him.
The media, they played a big role, even if they didn't mean to. They gave him a platform, amplified his message, and, well, they often didn't really challenge him or hold him accountable.
And social media, it feels like that's where a lot of the damage was done. The misinformation, the division's getting worse.
Oh, yeah. Social media was huge in 2016, and it still is. Facebook, Twitter, they became these breeding grounds for bad stuff. Misinformation, propaganda, hate speech makes it hard to know what's true.
So it's a powerful tool, but also a weapon.
Exactly. It can connect people, amplify voices, but it can also spread lies, create discord, undermine democracy itself.
Okay, so we've got a lot here. The economic stuff, the cultural stuff, media, social media, and the system itself.
Yeah.
But, well, the big question, the one we've been dancing around, is what does this mean for the future of our democracy?
That's a great question. And that's what we'll get into in the last part of our deep dive.
You won't want to miss it. We've really spent this whole deep dive breaking down like the nuts and bolts of 2016, right?
Right.
But to get the long-term impact, well, we got to look past just that one event.
Yeah, 2016, it wasn't just, a one-off thing. It was like a symptom of these bigger trends, these things that have been changing our politics for decades.
Okay.
Rising income inequality, people not moving up like they used to, everyone just getting more divided, and, nobody trusts the institutions anymore.
So you're saying Trump didn't cause these problems, he just, took advantage of them?
Exactly. He was really good at it, tapping into those anxieties, the grievances, all that frustration, that anger. He turned it into, well, a real force.
That's a little scary, because those issues, they haven't gone away. They might even be worse.
Right. So, well, that means our democracy, it's still vulnerable. The same kind of stuff that got Trump elected, it could happen again.
So what do we do? How do we protect ourselves, from all this?
There's no easy fix. It's going to take a lot of work on a lot of fronts. For one, we got to fix the economic problems, the social problems, the stuff that makes people feel so unhappy.
Like you're talking about the income gap, healthcare costs, people feeling left behind by globalization.
All of that. We need to make a society where everyone feels like they belong, where everyone has a chance to succeed.
But it's not just money, is it? There's this huge cultural gap, and it's getting wider.
Right. And we got to find ways to, to talk to each other across those divides, really listen, try to understand where the other side is coming from, even if we don't agree.
That sounds, I don't know, almost impossible right now. Everything's so divided.
It's hard, no doubt.
Yeah.
But it's what we have to do if we want to, come together and make our democracy stronger. We can't let these differences tear us apart.
And what about the media?
Mm-hmm.
And social media? They're part of the problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
What can we do about that?
Yeah, we got to hold them accountable. When they spread misinformation, when they just try to get attention instead of telling the truth. But we also need to support good journalism, fact-checking, stuff that helps us, figure out what's real in this crazy information world.
So it's about being smarter about what we read, what we watch, not just believing everything we see.
Exactly. Think critically, question things, check your sources, and, well, be aware of your own biases. We all have them.
That's a lot to ask. We're drowning in information all the time.
It is, but that's the cost of freedom. That's what it takes for democracy to work. We can't just sit back and watch. We got to be involved, informed, active citizens.
This deep dive has been, well, fascinating and a little scary, to be honest. Our democracy is, well, it's facing some real problems.
It is, but I'm also hopeful. 2016, as messy as it was a wake-up call.
It made us see some things about ourselves, about our system, things we didn't want to see.
Exactly. And that gives us a chance to rebuild, to make our democracy stronger, more resilient.
So maybe Trump winning, it could actually lead to something good.
It could. It showed us the cracks, the weak spots. Now we got to fix them. Make things more inclusive, more fair, more able to bounce back.
That's a good note to end on. This has been a really interesting deep dive. A lot to think about. Thanks for joining us.
It's been a pleasure.
And to all our listeners, we hope this got you thinking. Remember, our democracy, it's up to us. We have to stay involved, informed, and most importantly, active in shaping the world we want. Until next time, keep learning.